They give you these when you buy a denim jacket.
Who?
They just give you these.
Who's they?
No, it's not weird. They just give you these. I don't.
Who's they?
Obviously, you've never bought a denim jacket before.
No.
Welcome to the Too Bad We Didn't Get Into Cars podcast. My name is Nick Scarpinato.
I'm David Kapushikars.
This is our lovely co-host Vanessa, and that is a green 2011
Mini Cooper.
Mini Countryman. Countryman.
AKA Cooper.
We don't know what car it is, not only because we didn't get into cars, but also because we got this from a Top Gun Matchbox bunch of cars. And normally on the back of these Matchbox boxes, they'll show you, or on the side, they'll be like, oh yeah, these are the cars in the order that they appear on the front of the box.
At least the first one did that. I don't know if
All of them
maybe
do
we
that?
just got like a lucky one.
Yeah. But this one only has the 5 different vehicle types on the back. One of them is a plane, by the way.
Top Gun.
I don't know
Go
when
check
we're
it out
gonna
in
do
theaters.
No. No free clout. No free press.
I ain't seeing it anyway. I never seen the fucking Top Gun.
Me neither. Maybe that's another movie we should just watch. Is Top Gun. But yeah, so
dude, that's gonna be the day we talk about it. We gotta go watch the new Top Gun, and then we'll have the plane on display. Too bad we didn't get the planes. Special episode.
That's fair. Hey, is your camera supposed to be flipping out like that?
It doesn't matter. it shows that on the screen, but like when you watch it back, it'll be normal.
Oh, okay. That's weird. It freaks me out. So on here in this pack, we have the Swing Wing, which I'm assuming is the plane.
Probably.
The 2019 Ford Mustang, which everyone knows the Mustang, right? The 1972 Ford Bronco, which is a truck, right? The 2011 Mini Countryman, and David is convinced it is a Mini Cooper.
It's the only van-like car we have in that pack. So
yeah, and then the Jeep 4x4, which I think we had last time. So
yes, we did.
Honestly, I preemptively thought this would be a funny bit to do the aviator glasses and the jacket, but I unironically think it would have been a good outfit for the Top Gun episode. And now I just ruined it. Now I just soiled it. I can't.
You fucked it.
I fucked it. I can't unfuck it. I can't unfuck it. This sucks. I'm taking these off. At least I can save that. Maybe. I have an idea. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you what the idea is because it's gonna be a surprise for when we watch Top Gun. I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about Top Gun. And I know, it's probably something that we're going to get into. But it's one of those 80s movies that like I feel like everyone has seen and everyone kind of relates to the 80s. Like Back to the Future and, Dirty Dancing and what are some other big 80s movies? Ghostbusters,
Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah, everyone loves Die Hard.
Best goddamn Christmas movie of all time.
Yeah, Yippee-ki-yay.
Mother flipper.
Yeah.
Mother truckers. Don't tell me what I should do. Yeah, boy.
Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a 70s movie. Otherwise, I would say, oh yeah, all the horror movies in the 80s. How could we forget those?
Most of the Friday the 13th. There's one for every year almost.
Yeah. When was Jason Takes Manhattan? Is that like 87? Like late 80s?
Yeah, definitely a later one.
Yeah. Well, and then you had Friday the 13th, which was also in the 80s. You had
most of the Halloweens.
Where's Pinhead from?
Hellraiser.
Yeah, you had the Hellraiser movies in the 80s.
I feel like that was like 78 or something like that, though.
Really?
Yeah.
What about Poltergeist? That was definitely the 80s.
Like 80, maybe.
Like an old original 80. Yeah, so the 80s were huge for movies. And Top Gun, I've seen almost every single one of those movies or like a movie from those franchises, except for Top Gun.
Well, there's only the one.
And Dirty Dancing.
Now there's going to be 2.
Now there's going to be 2. Maverick.
So.
And our favorite guy who gets bullied in Whiplash is back at it again, getting bullied by his fellow Air Force Air Force
I thought you were
members.
talking about Tom Cruise for a second. Like, Tom Cruise is not in Whiplash.
Watch J. Jonah Jameson show up. I can't even. J.K. Simmons. Watch J.K. Simmons show up in Maverick. J.K. Simmons is popping up in a bunch of movies.
Good.
Yeah.
Man's a treasure.
Yeah. One of which we'll be talking about later. But yeah, it's a Memorial Day weekend. You know, for those of you who care, I guess. I don't know. Are you a big barbecue guy? Like, do you like? Because I don't grill. I don't grill myself. That would hurt a lot.
I don't either, but I love the food.
Yeah, I love grill food too. I used to, as a kid, I was a very extremely picky eater, and there's some little remnants of that today. But for the most part, you put some food in front of me, I'll ask you what it is, and then maybe check to see what's in it, and then I'll check, and then I'll eat it. You know, whereas before, never a chance. You'd never catch me as a 10-year-old trying food, just on the off chance that I would like it. And there were a lot of barbecues, family barbecues, like birthday parties where the parents, you know, of whatever kid invited you would grill out and they would make burgers and hot dogs and stuff. I, being the cool, trendy kid that I was, excuse me. Did you see the fucking denim jacket? Yeah, the trendy kid that I was, the cool, non-nerdy, non-shy kid that I was, always had to eat mac and cheese and that's it. Maybe I would get like a bun, like a hamburger or a hot dog bun and fill it with ketchup. Maybe. But what, man? I liked ketchup and I liked bread. And I didn't want to eat burgers or hot dogs. And it wasn't for a noble cause like not wanting to eat meat. I just straight up thought it was disgusting.
Okay, well, I like marshmallows and bananas, but I'm not gonna like eat them together.
That doesn't sound that bad.
That sounds kind of bad.
No, man. There's a guy on TikTok.
French fries and Oreos, peanut butter and gumballs. You know me too well, Deeds.
Oh my god. No, there's a guy on TikTok that does like I forget what it's, something cottagecore. I think it's cottagecore. But basically like he is in a cottage and the whole series I guess that he does on his TikTok is he'll start he'll, you know, put in like a VHS tape of like some old movie or some TV show, and then he'll do like a cooking tutorial, and he's like, hey, here's some soda, or here's, you know, this thing that I'm making. And one of the things that he made was like a fluffernutter sandwich with like bananas cut up in the middle, and then he like grilled it on a pan, and it looked really good. But his trademark is he'll always include his dog, from what I understand. But also he starts off every video by going, well, hello, buddy. And he's just very like, that's his voice. The entire narration is, well, hello, buddy. Today we're going to eat a bada. And it's very like whimsical and soft and nice. Exactly what you would expect from someone, you know, and he looks just like he's got like the mustache, and he's got like, you know, like, I think he has long hair. Maybe. I'm sorry. I also don't know your name. So forgive me, buddy. But I love your content, and I'm going to try that fluffernutter with banana sandwich at some point. But I that's all, folks. All's that to say that, I don't know. I don't think peanut butter and marshmallows and bananas sound that bad. But I get your example. I understand what you were trying to say. So I was never a grill kid. I was never a barbecue kid. But now, lo and behold, I like barbecue food. I like grill food. If it's done well, if it's done right. And it's you know, the worst that you can do to it is like overcook it, you know, like burn it to a crisp. But for the most part, you know, you just add whatever you want. Cheese, condiments, you know, bread.
Horseradish, or whatever floats your boat.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Why would you even bring up horseradish?
Because horseradish is a delightful condiment.
Why do you keep doing that? The Office episode was last week. Can't keep looking at the camera like that.
Where's the My Gym Partner's a Monkey episode?
What a pull.
That's the only line I remember from that show. Horseradish is a delightful condiment.
Okay.
Because someone was reading a thing upside down or something. I don't know. Fuck it.
Set a timer for 15 minutes.
But I forgot to bring this up last week. But I was supposed to meet Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul.
Oh, was that for their
Dos
alcohol
Hombres.
signing?
Yeah.
What is that? Because Vince and I were talking about that, and I don't know if we know what alcohol that is.
I don't either.
Oh.
But I just want to take a photo with them and get their autograph.
Yeah.
Because we saw Giancarlo Esposito.
We didn't meet him. That's going to be a story for another day. Like, if we go to C2E2 this year, I think that'll be its own episode, is just talking C2E2.
Yeah, but, like, so I've seen him, and then me and Haley were, like, watching Breaking Bad. And Vince sent me the thing, and it was like, oh, shit, they're going to be here 15 minutes from my apartment. And so we had to, like,
Holy
binge
shit.
the fuck out of, like, the last season really fast.
Yeah.
And then we went to go see him, and Aaron Paul wasn't even there to begin with. And this thing wasn't advertised at all. Like, it was on, like, the place is, like, Instagram.
Sure.
But none of their Twitters. There's, like, no marketing for this, like, tour at all. And we show up, and there's a fucking mile line.
Of course.
Out this fucking place. And so we show up, we're waiting there, and then I find out in the line that Aaron Paul wasn't there. And then they started like a half hour early, and then Brian dipped like an hour before it was supposed to end.
God damn.
Because I guess exhausted. Like they were both, because they were doing a lot of dates, and this was like the third Chicago day like straight.
Oh dang.
So I get it, but like that's just really really bad.
Yeah.
Like marketing and like organizing and shit.
Yeah, like I get it. There's this not even like a stigma, but I think meet and greets are simultaneously a really cool idea, but at the same time, I think it sets the collective population's expectations really, really high. Because you're expecting to meet and say hello and talk to these celebrities and these notable figures and get to tell them how much they mean to you and everything. But at the same time, it's probably the only time that you'll really see them as actual human beings and actual people. Because in our heads, at least, for me, I think of these celebrities as these infallible, untouched, because I've never met them or talked to them. I've only ever seen them in interviews or in their things, doing their craft. And then you get to meet them in real life, and you hear like they're tired or they're exhausted, or maybe they're just having a pissy day. Like maybe someone in their life, like a cousin, was like, "Hey man, can I borrow $5,000?" And then they have to be like, "What the fuck? No, I'm gonna go sign some bottles of alcohol. I'll fucking call you in an hour, I guess." So it's just like any number of things could happen for like before a meet and greet or during a meet and greet. So I'm just like, the only time I've ever really met I've met a couple of musicians just like at local shows and stuff. Like I had to meet Sunflower Bean because I went to go see one of their shows a couple weeks ago. But that feels a little bit different than like someone who's like A-list, high profile, like they are being swarmed by paparazzi whenever they go out of the house, So the only other person that I met kind of like that was at at C2E2. I met Jim Cummings, and anyone who's familiar with Jim Cummings or like voice acting in general, he is the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and like he's been in a bunch of projects, and he talked to me and my friend that I was with in the Tigger voice and in the Pooh voice, and my heart kind of broke a little bit because I didn't expect that. So that's cool. That's cool under the context of like a meet and greet or like an all day thing. But I don't know, long way to say, long story short. Like I get it, but still, like you were saying, like that's kind of bad promotion, considering that the only way you found out was because one of our friends had to tell you. Because Vince is all about like big events like that because he's like in the industry, So
yeah, it just I wanted to tell Aaron Paul so badly about because early in the show there is a scene where he's talking to his little brother.
Yeah.
And his brother has a piccolo. And then Jesse, his character, he's like, dude, play some Jethro Tull.
Oh, right.
And this is around the time where Jethro Tull was about to drop a new album after 20 years.
Yeah.
And I have never heard Jethro Tull in any, like, media.
Yeah.
Like, movies or anything. And, like, what a coincidence that was. And I would have been like, dude, you have no idea how impeccable that timing was.
Yeah.
But he was not there.
There are going to be other chances. Hey, man, maybe they're coming to Texas. Maybe they're going to be there in Texas when you're down there. Yeah, I think I might have... did they do Aqualung?
Yes.
Yeah. The only other time that I remember that being... there's a scene that the first Anchorman where Ron Burgundy gets up on the tables in this restaurant where he's with Veronica, and he starts playing the flute, and then halfway through his stunt, he's like, Aqualung! And he starts playing Aqualung.
Okay, well, I don't remember that.
Yeah, but that was before I knew it was by the band Jethro Tull. So, like, name dropping the band like that, I think that might be the only time in popular media that's ever been done. Yeah. So, thank you, Aaron Paul, for that. And I never saw the Fast and Furious movie, but I'm sure it wasn't as bad as everyone says it is. Not Fast and Furious. Need for Speed.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, basically.
I'm sure it's the same thing.
But yeah. Speaking of movies, with daring chases and the need for momentum and
need
movement.
for speed, car speed. That is
that just gonna be your thing? You just point to the camera whenever you make a reference? Absolutely.
That was Lisa Simpson from The Sims Hit and Run, which we talked about last week.
Right. Speaking of movies with intense chases and, high stakes, we're talking about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers today, which we just watched before recording this. What else are we talking about, David?
I want to talk about Earthbound.
Yeah.
Because I just beat it last night.
And we talked about that on the first podcast episode a while back, about how you were kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah. And then we're talking about Def Leppard because they just dropped an album like 2 days ago.
Yeah, and I think at some point we were planning on talking about them anyway because we knew it was coming out, and so we're going to do kind of a retrospective looking back on what the band kind of means to us, and very similar to what we did with Metallica and Trivium and everything. But first, we're going to talk about what's probably freshest on your mind, because Def Leppard is freshest on my mind because it was my first time listening to the album. But Chip and Dale.
Yeah.
It wasn't a show that I necessarily grew up with. I ended up finding out because after the movie is over on Disney Plus, they just redirect you to the actual show. I think it came out in '89. So, like, it wasn't even really new when we were kids. Like, I think the last episode aired before we were born. So the only way that we would have really seen it was if it was, like, syndicated or if it was, like, a rerun on, Disney XD or Disney Channel. And even then, when we were kids old enough to remember any of that, we would have been, it would have been like 99. And at that point, I was already deep into SpongeBob and, Pokemon and all that.
Yeah, definitely never seen anything about these two.
No. I mean, and I had only seen Chip and Dale. I remember they played a big part in Kingdom Hearts because they kind of help you build like your gummy ship and all that. But when I saw that this movie was being released, I was very skeptical at first. I was like, oh, it's just another kid's release on Disney Plus. And then I saw that Andy Samberg and John Mulaney were playing the titular chipmunks. And then I started to be a little bit more interested. And then I saw the trailer. And from the looks of the trailer, it reminded me a lot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Space Jam in that.
Yeah, like these half animated, half real life sort of hybrid movies.
And what's cool about the movie is that throughout the entirety of the movie, not only do you see, half hybrid, like real life and, 2D animated characters, you see 3D characters, you see claymation characters, you see like puppets, you see Muppets. So it's like all of these different like forms of animation that are being celebrated in this movie. And then I ended up watching it on a whim because I was over at my parents' place and I was like, I want to watch the new Rescue Rangers movie. And my mom and sister were like, oh, okay. And the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the Rescue Rangers movie when I first saw it. Granted, it kind of plays into like my sense of humor really well, which is just dumb, absurd, like silly stuff. And like the fact that, 2/3 of the Lonely Island are involved in the making of this movie. One of, Akiva, Keeve, he directed the movie, and then, Andy Samberg starred in the movie. And also John Mulaney being in the movie. I don't know. I feel like the writing in this one was very witty, and it was very self-referential, and the actual use of the characters that show up in the movie it's handled really well. So I overall enjoyed it. But I want to hear what you think, because this is your first time seeing it. And we have not talked about it since we finished watching it.
Half hour ago. Yeah. It was solid.
Yeah.
Like it was like because at some part of me is like, yeah, it's just kind of cameo central.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. But then it's also like really fun at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care, because some people are like that, especially with like, Doctor Strange 2 or Spider-Man No Way Home was like they're worried just gonna be, oh look, it's that guy, oh it's this guy. Yeah. That's all you got to see, and we don't need to like make an actual movie around it. But I mean, they did. Couple of moments got me to chuckle.
Yeah.
I went in. I thought like they were gonna be, like chipmunk voices, because I don't remember if they were always like that. Are they usually like
Yes. Yeah. Chip and Dale are always using their high pitched voices.
Yeah. So I was worried, because I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Like Alvin and the Chipmunks come straight from hell. So I was worried that was gonna piss me off, and then I heard John Mulaney's voice. I was like, okay, I'm safe.
I thought you were gonna be hooked the minute that you heard a Tenacious D song, because I was like
that too.
Yeah, because when I watched it and I heard Jack Black, I was like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah, they bust out Friendship.
Yeah,
which it's like shit in it, but like it's they obviously altered the lyrics
right
in a weird way, because if you know the song and you hear like the remix, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and they play it in the background during like a narration from Dale. But yeah, it was just an unexpected music, like in universe, like use of a song. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting that they would pick it, because no kid would appreciate hearing a Tenacious D song in a kid's movie. So that's the moment that I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be more interesting than I thought. Like aside from just the animation styles clashing and everything. And there are a couple of jokes in there, like Chip specifically uses language that I wouldn't expect. Like he at one part says like, what's that godforsaken smell? And I was like, oh yeah, that's fun. And then there's a section where him and Dale have to rap out of a situation, and Dale starts rapping, and then Chip goes like, oh, so I'm in hell now. That's this sucks. But yeah, no, I mean, you could definitely tell like John Mulaney's sense of humor from his stand-up like bleeds through into this performance. And Andy Samberg, this is not his first time doing voice stuff either. Like he was the main character in the Storks movie, which I really like, and he voices the idiot from Hotel Transylvania, the main guy Johnny. So he's no stranger to animation, but both of them gave a really good performance. I felt like the friendship thing was going to be a little bit cheesy, but no, towards the end, like you can tell that these characters are really good friends, and that was cool. Even if the sacrifice scene at the end was played a little like it happens really quickly and then it's kind of over. I don't know. I do appreciate. So do you know the trope of oh god, what is it called? Chekhov's gun?
No idea.
So Chekhov's gun is like a playwriting technique. I don't even know if I would call it a technique, but it basically states that if you introduce an object or a theme or a motive in the first act of a play, it has to show up in the second end. And the name comes from a play that I think, if Chekhov was a playwright, this might have come from one of his plays. But in the first act, there's a gun hanging on the wall. So in that specific instance, the rule dictates if you put a gun on the wall during a play, it has to be used in the second act. So it's this story writing thing that kind of helps you trim the fat of your story writing and your ability to create atmosphere and characters, because there's a lot of instances where the writers in this movie will introduce a joke or a plot line or whatever in the first like half hour that come up in the last act of the movie. Like Monterey Jack wears this, cologne that ends up being really important towards the end of the movie. And there's a joke that Chip makes about how, all cartoons, when they get rebooted, they have to start rapping. And then that happens in this movie too. So it's like little stuff like that you pick up on that I really appreciate. And you can tell the writers, took this story like seriously, but at the same time, like they wanted to make it fun, but they didn't want to dumb it down for kids. So I appreciate that. So yeah, there were a couple of really good moments there. There was a moment that I remember really laughing hard at, and I was trying to pay attention to what you were laughing at too, and like chuckling at. But they use a lot of like cartoon tropes in this movie, and they kind of explain, like, one of the things that I really appreciated was the actual conflict of the movie. There's a process that is done to old cartoon characters in this world called bootlegging. And if anyone's familiar with any sort of like commentary YouTuber that creates videos on like bootleg animation movies, you're 100% familiar with this kind of concept where like a classic cartoon character like Flounder from The Little Mermaid, he'll get kidnapped because he owes this gang money, and then they get sent overseas to be like made into like bootleg movies of the movies they come from. So like in this case, it's like the small like water lady instead of the Little Mermaid, and like Flounder looks different, and there's like reconstructive surgery that is done to these characters. And I thought that was a really funny use of like animation lingo and stuff. There's also like in California, there's the Valley, but in this movie, it's the Uncanny Valley, and the only people that live there are like cartoon characters that are supposed to look real, but there's a little thing. And then Seth Rogen plays like a Viking. He plays a Viking that lives in the Uncanny Valley, and it's just like it's his face, but he's never looking at you. That was a good bit. And then the trope with like old cartoon characters getting hit on the head and like birds show up.
That was the single best part of the movie. Because when it was happening, because there was like a thing above.
Yeah.
And I thought they were trying to hit the other one like up there.
Uh-huh.
And he hits him on the head, and I was like, what the hell's he doing? And then the second time he hit him, it was like, where are they? I was like, oh shit, they're waiting for like the bird things to fly overhead.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts. just fucking bird in the bed.
Yeah.
Gets a phone call. Oh man.
And his wife is like, come on, Harold, it's late. And then he's like, no, it's my job. And he gets out of bed.
Like, don't nag me right now.
Yeah, and he gets ready to to go just fly above this character, like Chip's head or Dale's head. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, and the way that they use the cameos, I think some of them, like they show, like, so this is a Disney movie, but there are characters that show up here that are not owned by Disney. That
Randy from South Park. Randy
Marsh shows up in the German spa. And he's hanging out next to two pigs, and one of the pigs is like, yeah, I mean, I get the kids on the weekend, but it's not the same. It's just lines like that. That's like, oh, it's, yeah, they use like, Foghorn Leghorn shows up on like a box of frozen food. Paul Rudd shows up. I mean, it's not like he's a property owned by Disney, but he's at like a convention basically, and he's signing stuff as Aunt Man. Because the joke is like, yeah, the original name for the movie was Aunt Man, and I had the power to charm aunts. So funny how that worked out. And Paul Rudd's just in the, and oh man, it's so funny because like he's in on the joke. That's the best. I love Paul Rudd so much. Yeah, you probably did, like, I didn't catch it the first time. Apparently Naruto is in this movie from a couple episodes ago, and it's at the very end. Spoilers for Rescue Rangers. But it's at the very end where they open up the silo, or not the silo, but like, you know, on a docking, like a ship dock, you know, the big like containers, like the freight containers that like ships will carry. There are a bunch of bootlegged characters being hidden in one of them. And one of the characters walking, like all of the characters that escape from this silo look like other cartoon characters. So you see a parody of like Patrick Star. You see a parody of Phineas from Phineas and Ferb. And then there's an old man in an orange jumpsuit with like the hidden leaf band on his forehead, but he's got a mustache and like old like white hair. It's Naruto because he's got like the blue sandals and everything, and like he's got like the puffy, you know, thing around his neck. And you only catch him for a second, but you know, people were already like, the weekend the movie came out, they're like, they fucking got Naruto in this. They got Naruto in this movie.
Also, Ugly Sonic was in there a lot.
Ugly Sonic play a lot bigger of a role than I thought he was going to. And he's also voiced by Tim Robinson, who's probably one of the funniest people alive. He does a show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave, which I honestly want to show you an episode of when this is done, because it's just this really funny, absurd, like Tim and Eric style, like sketch comedy show. It's really good. But he plays Ugly Sonic, and like the whole joke is that like he's at this convention because he's famous for, you know, having ugly teeth. And then he shows up along other like washed up, you know, animation stars with like Dale in the beginning of the movie. But then they come back to him because he has connections at the FBI, because they want to start a show with him where they solve ugly crimes, and they have Ugly Sonic. So good. It's so good. And apparently they're able to get away with it because by calling him Ugly Sonic the whole time, because it's parody, technically it's their own original character. Whereas like other cameos, they only get permission from the original users to, you know, have them in the background or passing by or whatever. But in this case, apparently they got the literal like CG model from Paramount, like before they scrapped it in favor of the new Sonic model. Wow. And they used that, they rigged that for the movie. So yeah, if you love animation, if you love like wacky humor, I honestly might buy this on Blu-ray, like if they ever come up with like a steelbook of like the Rescue Rangers movie, just because I think it's a fun, you know, it's a short movie too. Like it doesn't feel like it drags on too much. And I think it's fun to break out every once in a while, you know, like if you're having people over, you want to just have something going on in the background. Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
It's a rent it.
Yeah, it's a rent it. I think if it's not a rented, it's a very low buy it for me, because I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, but it's not, you know, groundbreaking or anything. So moving on, I suppose, and I was gonna use a segue that would have spoiled how I feel about something. Anyway, Def Leppard. I want to talk Def Leppard, because they just came out with a new album, and I don't know if that's going to be in focus.
Doesn't matter. It's there.
That's true.
It's an album came out
probably Friday.
On Friday, which was like a week and a half ago for you. But after 7 years since the last one.
What was their last one? Is that songs from the
self-titled?
Oh, self-titled. That's right.
And you know, I was just waiting. I was waiting for a new one because I wanted to talk about them on my channel, and I like to wait for new albums to come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, just waiting for it. It's been a while, guys. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then a kaboom! There it is.
Yeah. And before we get into the new album, I want to just take a second to talk about Def Leppard for us, because Def Leppard kind of it you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like speaking for both of us, it was a band. And their music was kind of around for like all of our childhoods, because, you know, they're like a big 80s band, and a lot of like parents and folks like, you know, our parents' ages, like they listened to a lot of Def Leppard because they were huge in like the mid 80s, like 87, whatever. So at least I know my parents were playing Def Leppard in the car all the time. They were showing me songs from them and stuff like that. And they're very much like 80s classic bands. You know, you got them. You got like Poison, Motley Crue. But like Photograph shows up all the time. Pour Some Sugar on Me, I think, is a little overplayed.
Yeah, I mean, Hysteria is like one of the best selling albums of all time.
Yeah.
So
and
you know them.
Yeah, and it's not. I wouldn't even say it's not unearned. Like, I was looking back at their discography a little bit today, because they have, you know, the From the Vault album, which is like their greatest hits, and my mom had that, and I listened to it a lot. But then I ended up buying Hysteria and like Pyromania, and I always thought I liked Pyromania better, and then I look back on it and I'm like, no. I mean, it's got Photograph. It's got
Rock of Ages.
Yeah, it's got Rock of Ages. It's got Rock Till You Drop. I can't remember any other, because Foolin' is on Hysteria.
Foolin's on Pyromania.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah, and Foolin's a good song. But Hysteria, man, you got Animal, you got Rocket, you got Pour Some Sugar on Me. You got Armageddon It, yeah.
Love Bites, the title track.
Yeah.
Women.
Yeah, so it's just practically top to bottom a better, like, at least a more recognizable album. But yeah, they were huge for me in high school. Like, I came up with this theory that my friend Mike, if you know he's watching this, you'll remember hopefully. I was sitting in one of our like lunch periods, and I was going through this phase where I was legally downloading all of these 80s rock artists' discographies, and I was listening to them through, and usually all of them had greatest hits. And then around that time, in like the early 2010s, a couple of them started releasing new albums after all this time. Like Aerosmith came out with an album in like 2013. Journey came out with a new album in like 2011. I think Def Leppard had one that came out. Was that Songs from the Sparkle Lounge, or was that like 2009?
That was like 2008 it came out.
Yeah. So like I had this theory that for every like classic band, or for every rock band, because I did it with the Foo Fighters too, I was like, all you need to do is buy their greatest hits and then their latest album. And I guess Mike thought that was really funny because he brought it up to me all the time, and he was like, hey Nick, you know what the best strategy for listening to music is? You just buy the greatest hits album and then the new album. And then I was like, yep, that is a thing that I said at one point. Probably not seeing the irony of why that was funny to him. But yeah, man. So they were huge. They were one of the first bands that I was like, yeah, get the greatest hits and the newest album. Because, like, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
As a wise man once said, greatest hits all you need. Someone out there knows what I'm talking about.
Get your finger out of my camera.
Someone out there knows.
Oh my god. Are you gonna tell us?
No.
Okay. Well.
But yeah, like, okay. Yeah, Vault. I have a whole video about like this album, but Vault and a bootleg Queen Greatest Hits.
Oh yeah.
It was these two albums. They were the first albums I ever listened to. So to say Def Leppard has been with me my whole life is no overstretch.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We actually got to see them.
Yeah.
I think it was our first concert together.
It was about 10 years ago now. We saw them at Allstate.
Yeah, and we got to see Def Leppard was headlining. We also saw Lita Ford and Poison. And
that pop filter just blew up.
Yeah, a lot of plosives. Yeah, and Poison, I had first heard of through Guitar Hero 3.
Talk dirty to me.
Which was a cover, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But it was a fine song. And then they did Every Rose is a Thorn, or Every Rose Has Its Thorn, which I ended up stumbling across because it's one of the only, like acoustic 80s hair metal songs that like got really popular.
As another wise man once said,
oh my God,
you can like Europe, you can like Winger, you can like AT's Whitesnake, but you cannot like Poison.
I like Unskinny Bop. I think Unskinny Bop is fun.
Okay, I'll tell you, that was from Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth.
Is that why the accent?
Yes. Who, not to get off topic, but that man is the king of stage banter.
Oh,
I think I told you, but like if you yell something out to him and he hears it, he will respond to you.
Huh.
Like every time. There was a guy who gave him his like EP at the show I just went to see.
And what happened?
Because he yelled out, "Michael, we listened to my album?" And he was like, "Come again?" And then they had a whole conversation, and he gave him like his EP to listen to.
Oh shit.
So, and it was some random show. He was talking about how you cannot like Poison, but you can like all these other bands.
80s White Snake,
which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So they were fine, and Lita Ford was fun. I wasn't really familiar with her music, but when it came time to see Def Leppard, boy was I hype. Boy was I so excited. Because it was one of my first like rock band shows. Yeah,
that was my second show because I saw Iron Maiden first. That was my first show, but Def Leppard was the second one.
Yeah, and I think it was my first indoor concert too, which definitely hits a little bit different. Like outdoor shows are fun, indoor shows, I don't know how to describe it. I think it's probably has something to do with the acoustics in the venue. But I don't know. It's sort of like it hits a little bit different because the sound is like staying inside with you the whole time. So like it feels like you're in it, and it was really fun. And there were a lot of songs that I was like screaming to, and there were also a lot of songs that I filmed in their entirety, and you could hear me singing in the entire video, which is not cool. Because then you look back and you don't realize it at the time. When you look back and you listen to those videos, it's only you. You can only hear you singing. Yeah. So it's like you go to post it on Facebook and then you start getting really self-conscious about the video because it's just your voice and you can't hear yourself singing, so it's really off pitch. Oh man, it's the worst. But yeah.
But yeah, man. Have you heard other albums?
Not all of them. I think I might have gone through all of them in their most, not in their entirety, but like most of the songs I listened to. I remember listening to a lot of X. There were a couple of songs that I only listened to once, and probably still to this day I've only listened to once. But I can guarantee that I've listened to at least a little bit of every album. At least like the singles, like the big popular songs.
Yeah.
Because I know you listened to their whole discography.
Yes. I just cleared them again.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear the first 4 because I didn't need to.
Yeah.
I already know those albums by heart.
Yeah, just like Metallica, like those first couple of albums.
Yeah, man,
really good.
This band alone, they have one of my favorite albums of all time and one of my least favorite albums of all time.
What was your least favorite? X. Yeah.
X is fucking horrible. And they know it too because they never touched the album since its tour.
Sorry, guys.
Well, right now they have like an acoustic melody and they play one of the songs from X. But other than that, they never touched this fucking album since.
Yeah.
And it sucks because Rick Allen actually wrote all the songs with them. So I don't know whose fault it was, but someone dropped the ball hard. Yeah. X is Misery.
Oh, Mirror Ball. That's another album. That was the new album that came out around the time that I was in high school. Because it was a live album, but I was like, it was a double live album, and it came in like this really cool jewel case.
Yeah, but then there was like 3 new songs at the end, which Undefeated slays.
Yeah, Undefeated is really good.
But the other 2 were whatever.
Yeah. So flash forward to present day, or do like the harp thing,
right.
2022, they come out with this album. Halos in a
Diamond Star Halos.
Yeah. What did you think?
I want to hear what you think. That's my 3rd time through this thing already.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I thought it was solid. Here's my thing. The whole time I was listening to that album, this is kind of a trend for like at least me and like rock bands or like classic rock bands that you'll hear on like rock radio. And I don't like using classic rock because eventually every rock band becomes classic rock eventually. But this is kind of what happens to a lot of those like 80s and like 70s bands where you reach a point where you can go on tour literally at any time because you have a set full of singles and hits and crowd favorites. So every new release, there's not really a big pressure to write something that's like new or like catchy or anything like that. And obviously, the artists, like they're gonna want to write stuff that they like. But I've always kind of got the idea. I've always gotten like the idea that these bands that are putting out these albums, they're not really worried about like radio play. They're not really worried about how this is going to fit into the set because again, they already have their whole 3-hour, 2-hour set pretty much mapped out. So I listened to one of these albums that come out and I'm usually not really expecting much, but this album had a couple of moments that I really, really liked. Granted, I don't think they're reinventing the wheel here. I don't think there's anything on this album that like they haven't tried before, they haven't done before. 'Cause again, like what are they going to do? Put out like an EDM, like an electronic album, no, absolutely not. But when that happens, you kind of run the risk of putting out songs that kind of sound like diet versions of songs you've already released. But in this case, I feel like this album had mostly like solid tracks with only like one or two that I listened to that I was like kind of bored with. I'm trying to see the set.
Namely, This Guitar.
Yeah, This Guitar I don't like. This guitar I don't like at all. I like Alison Krauss. I like the quality of her voice, and I get it. Like she's a good singer to collab with, but I don't know if Def Leppard was at all influenced by Robert Plant, because Robert Plant, lead singer of Led Zeppelin, he put out an album or a couple albums with Alison Krauss, but one of which like got a lot of like Grammy nominations and wins and like a lot of award season buzz. So maybe it was someone on their team that was like, hey, maybe you should collab with Alison Krauss. She likes working with old like rock band singers. I don't know. I could be wrong, and Alison could be really good friends with either like Joe or the other members of Led Zeppelin.
You mean Def Leppard?
Yep.
You got Vivian. You got
Vivian
Phil.
Campbell.
You got
Phil Collin.
Rick,
One Collin.
Other Rick.
Rick Allen. Rick
Savage.
That's right. And then Joe Elliott. And they sound good. Like they still sound really put together as a band. And I will say the best thing that any of these albums do, like any of these new albums of older bands, the best thing that can be done or can be said about these albums is how much low end they bring to the table. Because there are a couple of songs on this album where you can tell, is it Vivian that plays bass, or does he play one of the guitars?
He's a guitar. Rick Savage is bass.
Rick. Yeah, there are a couple of songs where Rick, I can tell, is either using drop tuning or a 5-string because he goes down to those really, really low registers. And it sounds really cool. There are other moments where I'm trying to figure out what makes Def Leppard sound like Def Leppard. And for me, it's the harmonies.
The backup vocals.
Yeah, the backup vocals. Because there are some songs on here otherwise that don't have those backup vocals in a lot of places that From Here to Eternity, probably one of my favorite songs on the album, but it sounds very Queen-like to me. It doesn't really remind me of like Def Leppard or like Open Your Eyes I really, really like, because that's the one with the cool bass line in the beginning. There's another song that like straight up sounds like if Foo Fighters were around in the 80s. Like this is the kind of music that they would be writing now. So I don't know if that was a byproduct of maybe their management team or their, creative team like pressuring them into writing songs that kind of sound like other artists, or maybe if it was just a byproduct of these guys like listening to modern rock radio and asking themselves like, okay, how can we stand apart? Like, how can we write different songs? Which isn't to say that it's a bad thing. It just reminded me of those other artists. And that's why I had to start thinking like, what makes this Def Leppard? Like, what makes this sound like a Def Leppard album? But like I said, for the most part, it was a fun ride. And although I think 15 songs is a little long, obviously
it's been 7 years. It's like,
yeah,
fill it up.
Yeah, right. So like, I can't blame them for that. But would I consider it like in the top, 5 or like maybe 10? Because how many albums do they have in total?
11.
That's it? They only have 11 albums?
Studio. There's a cover album, which I don't count.
Yeah.
There's like a beat, like Retroactive is just full of B-sides.
That's right, because they have an acoustic version of Bringing On the Heartbreak.
Yeah, but as far as like albums with new material, there's 11.
Okay, well, this is definitely in the better half then, because I liked it for most of the way through. Even if I wasn't fully paying attention for all of it, There were a couple of moments that I was listening to that really like stuck out to me. And that's when it comes to albums, like specifically as opposed to like just listening to singles or whatever, or playlists. When it comes to an album, I try to listen to it top to bottom. And then usually if there's any part of me that's like, I want to go back to this song or I want to go back to this moment, that's usually a good sign of like a good album. If I want to go back and immediately listen to another song. And From Here to Eternity being probably my favorite, it doesn't really help that sort of example because that was the last song on the album. So it's not like I can go back and listen to it again 2 times in a row. I mean, I could, but anyway. So yeah, I thought it was super solid.
I thought it was good too.
Yeah.
The first time I heard it, I was like, it's kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, the second time through it, like, yeah, the first track, Take What You Want, like that guitar riff.
Yeah,
pretty heavy for Def Leppard.
Yeah, the guitar riff it's very gnarly when it gets down to the like the lower strings and lower register.
Yeah, and then kick's a lot of fun. Like it's just like a song that you can tell everyone's just having a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
But yeah, You Rock Me, they spell it stupidly, but it's a kind of decent song.
And that's,
I think.
I was going to say Liquid Dust was a contender for like one of my favorite songs, and then the chorus happens and it's just them singing Liquid Dust a couple of times and then like another line out. And I was like, that's fine. But the transition from Liquid Dust to You Rock Me was really cool with the acoustic guitar.
Even some of the softer ones like Goodbye for Good This Time, it has like this, because like, you know, strings in it. So it's automatically pretty cool. And then the Lifeless with the other Alison Krauss one, I think is pretty decent too.
Yeah, I like that one.
Kiss That Rocks, I think kind of slays except the last like 1 second.
It's very 80s of them to put a fucking like a kiss sound effect in the last second of the recording.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought up From Here to Eternity because that's a really cool song.
It is objectively like, I could tell, you know, they wrote that and they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be the closing song. Like some songs you just know.
Rick Savage wrote it.
Rick Savage wrote it?
Yep.
Hell yeah, Rick.
How about that?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the last song on the last album, Blind Faith. That one is kind of like in that similar vibe where it's kind of like more epic than the rest.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But like Unbreakable, I can't fucking stand.
Yeah. Unbreakable, because we were listening to that in the car on the way here.
No, that was the one before From Here to Eternity. That's the one that starts with that really cool riff, and then the verse goes to the like tech breakdown.
Oh right, yeah.
Like I hate the verse in that song.
Yeah,
extremely.
Because I think in the chorus they do like unbreakable, unshakable, unwhatever. Oh, speaking of lyrics, there's another song where he mentions like the Snapchat generation, and like I get it. Like you're in your 50s, your 60s. You're a rock band. You probably have kids that are, you know, always on their phone. It seems like a very parent thing to do, to like write lyrics about the Snapchat generation and like the, you know, taking selfies all the time. But like lyrics like that always kind of date songs for me, and I don't like that a whole lot. So that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But
yeah. I mean, there's 15 songs. There's a handful that aren't great, but there's a handful that are honestly kind of really good. But yeah, like your point before, how, you know, these bands don't really have to put out albums.
Yeah.
Like they very well could have stopped after Hysteria and they would have been fine.
But
you know, I'm glad that they still try at least.
Well, because at the very least, this gives them another reason to go on tour.
Yeah.
Because it's like you promote the new album, people go see you, and that's what I was thinking. I had a lot of thoughts like in the middle of listening to the album, and obviously, you know, there's a Jay-Z quote that Donkey used in one of his videos about reviews, about how it's kind of unfair to the art and the artist to formulate permanent opinions after only experiencing it once, or like only listening to it like a half hour ago. So I can't definitively say whether or not I do or do not like this album for certain, but I can definitely say there are some songs that upon first listen were really interesting to me, because who knows, I could go back and listen to this album and those songs that I want to go back to like either don't hit me the same or whatever. Like we were talking about Gears Judgment, last week. It was like, yeah, you play it for a week and you're like, this is better than Gears 3. And there's some magic, X, like chemical X that's not, in the game or in the album that is just missing. And you're like, yeah, maybe. That's how I felt with Sonic Highways, like the Foo Fighters album. Like I liked that album a lot when I first listened to it. Now it's my least favorite album. So it's like, you never know. But as far as first impressions go, I like it. I'd listen to it again. But it's not going to be in my stereo on repeat.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
It's just cool that these guys are playing.
Yeah. I mean, you put out an album, you go on tour, or you could go on tour only and never put out a new album, like some people, King Crimson. And it's just like, oh, come on, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, the band, great dudes, great guys. I fucking love Rick Allen. I got a pop figure of him. My boy.
Yeah.
He's such a sweetheart, dude.
Is he?
Every time he like they shot him out on like a tour or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, give it up for the Thunder God, I think they call him.
Yeah.
And then he's always like crying, like he's just happy to be alive.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome.
There's also a whole movie. There's a movie about the band and him.
I think it was like a TV movie.
Yeah, Hysteria.
Yeah.
That just shows up until that point, the band's history.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen clips from it. I don't think I saw it in full, but I think them recording "Bringing on the Heartbreak" is really cool.
I definitely show you that movie. I have a bootleg of it.
Yeah, that was back at your old place.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
But there's still a band that means a lot to both of us, and I think honestly they might have. I don't want to say aged a little better than Metallica, but maybe they had a very similar trajectory. Where like in the middle there, it seemed like maybe they were milking it a little bit and, they could have stopped. But eventually, all of those bands come around and they come to terms with the fact that they're not going to be like the hip thing anymore. Because there's, especially in like the 90s and the early 2000s, I feel like there was a lot of pressure for like 80s bands to be relevant again. But now they just don't care. They're just making music because they want to. And that's awesome. So Def Leppard, I know you don't give a shit about what I think. If you're watching this, it'd be cool if you were.
Yeah.
But keep on keeping on. You were gonna do that whether I told you to or not. Anyway. Thanks for
check out my ranking of all the albums coming out soon.
Yep.
Which may not already be up.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to David's channel is going to be in the description. So check that out. Subscribe to him. Give him some love. Any more thoughts on Def Leppard before we move on?
That's about it.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was really fun to like rediscover those bands again. Speaking of rediscovery,
yeah,
one of the coolest features, at least for some people, it's a really cool feature. I know other people don't really like it, but one of the coolest features of the Nintendo Switch is its virtual console. It's virtual console games, which a lot of people have problems with because they're basically just emulators.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that people liked about the original versions aren't, translated 100% correctly, but like it gives a lot of other people unique opportunities to play games that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to because you don't have an NES / $200 to buy a cartridge of Earthbound.
You don't have, $17,000 to buy a mint condition of Earthbound for some piece of shit on eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah, $17,000. I think that's a fair price. Fuck you, buddy.
Yeah. So Earthbound is a game that we're both at least a little bit familiar with. Well, I mean, you're very familiar with now.
If you played Smash, you know Ness.
Yeah, and now I was just going to say, I think him and, like, the Fire Emblem characters, because those games weren't really super popular in the U.S. or even released in the U.S. At the time that Smash, like, the original Smash with Ness and then Melee with, Marth and Roy. It did wonders for those characters, and it kind of put Ness on the map for me, and then Lucas came out in Brawl, and he, I think, was, Mother 3?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But, and then, people started asking Nintendo as NES got more popular and Earthbound became more of a household gamer name. People have been asking Nintendo for a very long time to either make a new Earthbound game or like port Earthbound to like the Wii or the Wii U or now the Switch. And they finally did it. And they made the announcement on one of the E3s this past couple of years. And it was kind of a cool thing to see that Earthbound and Earthbound 3, I think, were being ported. And Earthbound 2, which had never been released in the US before. I might be wrong about that.
Earthbound is Mother 2.
Mother 2, that's right.
And then there's Mother 1, which is just Earthbound Beginnings. And then Mother 3, I think, still has never officially been released over here.
Interesting.
And it's only on Game Boy.
Yeah.
But I was looking up gameplay, and it looks just like Earthbound, so...
Yeah, I mean, the NES graphics translate very well to the Game Boy. But yeah, you started playing Earthbound at least 7 weeks ago, because that was when we filmed and recorded the first episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And you dropped it at the very end.
It was a couple weeks before that. So maybe like 3 months ago.
So now you're done.
Yes, I just finished it last night.
Okay.
Surprisingly, my playtime is only 24 hours.
That's it?
Yeah. Which is... I was expecting a lot more, because... It's a fucking decent, hefty game.
Yeah, I mean, but considering the technical capabilities of the NES at the time, it kind of makes sense that they couldn't fit as much onto, or was that the SNES?
SNES.
Yeah. Okay. The SNES might be different, but what are your initial thoughts? What are your like surface level?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Because I saw the nerd video.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about it like 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And then, he goes in depth about everything that happens. And it was like, spoiler warning for this game. And I was like, I'm never going to play this game.
Me too.
I'll watch it. And then, so playing it, like, not much was a surprise to me. Like, I already knew pretty much everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's a very, very well-written game.
Mm.
It's a game where you want to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Because chances are they're going to say something either funny or helpful.
Well, and it's an RPG too, and RPGs, it's kind of one of the main features is getting information from townspeople and NPCs and folks in the world that kind of help you progress. So, a lot of people begrudgingly in RPGs, they're like, okay, so who do I have to talk to? What do I do now? Syndrome, And I have a tendency to do that in Pokemon anyway, just because you never knew who's going to give you an item or whatever. But I guess in Earthbound, is it like rewarded other than just getting like really witty dialogue?
That's pretty much it. They don't really give you anything. It's just there was there's a house.
Yeah. That
was like one of my favorite things as a very new Beatles fan. But there was a house and it was like, do you remember what that Beatles song goes? And it's like ... today, and the answers are yes and no. And so I hit yes, thinking like, oh, it's you're talking about yesterday. So I hit yes, thinking like it's gonna make me type it in. And he was like, oh, that was it, thank you. And I was like, excuse me. So I did it again. I hit no, and the guy was like, Notre Day. I don't remember that song. And then it hit me. I was like, oh shit, yes are the first 3 letters of yesterday. So that like completed the riddle. I was like, that's super smart.
Yeah, that's really funny. How about the gameplay?
It was okay, I'm not gonna lie. I cheated hardcore because the Switch thing, you can like hit the triggers to like rewind time and use save states, which I did a lot. Which might be controversial, but I don't give a shit. Like Mike Matei, I remember like when that shit first came out, he tweeted something like, if you used that rewind feature to beat a game, you by no stretch of the imagination beat that game. And it's like, I kind of get it, but at the same time it's like, nah, the only thing I did was save a couple hours of my life. Like, okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to die. I have to go back and redo all that's preventing me from doing is just repeating all this shit that I have to redo if I die.
So he said like it doesn't count basically, like if you use save states.
Yeah.
Which like I get, like him and James, I don't know if Mike's a part of Cinemassacre anymore, but
Not really, but he helps sometimes. But, you know, I get it. Because it's like these guys grew up with no save states.
right,
You have to beat the game fair and square.
these hard ass games.
But even in the nerd video, he was like, if you die, you have to like go to the hotel, like revive everyone. It could take a half hour.
Yeah,
That's all I did was save me that half hour of hassle.
right. Which is a common complaint in that video is that like this game could be good if blank. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that take too long. And if I keep dying, all these bullshit enemies who do like 300 damage in one hit, then it's just like you have to just redo all that shit. And I don't feel like redoing shit, so I'm just going to cheat my way through it.
Well, and
I still beat the boss battles, bro. I still beat them.
I could understand the argument of like, oh, part of the satisfaction of beating the game is going through all of that tedious shit and like the hard stuff and grinding and everything like that. And to a point, I understand it. But there's to quote, you know, another Donkey video. He used a quote from Reggie Fils-Aimé from, you know, former president of Nintendo of America. And he used a quote from him where Reggie was like, if it's not fun, why bother? And like, and it's just a really good mantra for like life in general, but also like specifically video games. Like if every second of the game doesn't count towards something that makes you feel happy to play it, then like, why are you doing it? So like, you know, a lot of these RPGs that require grinding and stuff like that, it's like for some people, it's cool because that happiness that you find only happens after the grinding and after seeing all that hard work come to fruition. But at the same time, if you're not a person that enjoys grinding in games and monotonous button mashing and stuff, basically like brain dead mode, then you're not going to enjoy the game.
Yeah, you know, it's like, it's not like I can't do it. Like I've beaten Link to the Past.
Yeah.
On like your actual physical cartridge.
Yeah.
So I didn't use save states in that or anything. And like that last Ganon fight, pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But I still made it through.
And it's not like you can't still do that on the Switch.
Right.
Like it's not like, you know, you can only use save states. It's like, no, I mean, they're there as a resource to use them if you want. So like your argument doesn't make any sense.
And it's like a game where like especially towards the end, like once you go to the final planet, you're stuck there.
Yeah.
So if you like run out of healing items or anything, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, I'm not going to risk not being able to finish the game at the very end just because, I didn't bring enough, you know, cheeseburgers or something.
That's why I don't, like, I get it. I just couldn't see myself enjoying, like, Nuzlocke run-throughs for, like, Pokemon games. Because you know about Nuzlocke. But basically, you can't use a Pokemon once they faint in battle. Like, if they faint in battle, they, for all intents and purposes, are dead. And you can't use them anymore.
Like, you have to release them, I think.
Yeah. So, I get wanting a challenge in Pokemon games, but at the same time, like, that's just not fun for me. And, you know, not to say that it's not fun for other people, but that's basically the same argument being made, is like, you know, in games that basically require you to play it as though it's a Nuzlocke challenge, it's like, is that really fun? You know, because, like, doesn't that discourage most people from wanting to play it if, like, you put all of this hard work in and then all of a sudden the game's like, oh, you fucked up once, now you have to undo all of this and start from basically square one, and you're at the end of the game, and it's like, fuck, man, no, fuck you. Like, I can turn this game off whenever I want and then never play it again. Like, do you really want players to feel that way? And it's such a hard question for a developer because, like, just like customer service, people are the biggest question mark in any activity ever, because it's like everyone's so different and everyone's preferences are so different. So I can't even use the argument of like, people don't like it when, you know, you make games hard. So having save states, this is a very long way of saying having save states doesn't diminish the fact that you finished a game or beat a game. It's just like you find a way to play. You find a new way to play, and
it's quicker.
Yeah.
I don't have all the time in the world
exactly
to redo all these parts over and over again.
Yeah, unlike when we were kids, or like when Mike and James were kids and this game came out, it's like you have all summer to beat this game and then brag about it to your friends. It's like, nah, man, I got a job. I got stuff to do. I got a podcast to record. You know, I'm not weird flex, Nick, but okay. I create busy things for myself because that's how my broken brain works, is I have to be productive at all times or otherwise I feel like a piece of shit. But, you know, that means that I don't give as much time to playing video games and stuff like that. So, like, save states sound like a good idea to me because it's like I want to get around to doing other stuff because playing video games feels productive to a point, to a degree, because at some point I'm going to turn it into content probably, you know, like make a video or make a podcast or whatever. But speaking of, I got a lot of games to finish. And that's going to be something to talk about at a later point.
Yeah, now I got to figure out something else to do. Also, we obviously have that first bonus episode out now when I was yelling about...
Bless you. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, it's gone.
Fuck.
I was yelling about not having a PS5 and the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Both of which I own now. So, yes, $1,300 in 2 days for gaming. Not happy about it, but
it happened.
Yeah, I can finally play these PS5 games. But anyway, Earthbound.
Yeah,
I would recommend it.
Yeah,
I would absolutely recommend this game.
Okay,
just because, like I said, it's so well written. Just for like the writing alone, I think it's worth. Yeah, it's also just really cool game. You know. Just run around with your 3 friends who you can name whatever. You know, upgrade your weapons and buy new weapons and
yeah.
If you've seen the nerd video, all those annoying things like the goddamn photo guy are very, you know, true.
Yeah.
But if you use the rewind feature, you can avoid a lot of that hassle.
So James, if you're watching,
kudos to you, man. But
yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, and also say hi to Def Leppard and Allison Krauss for us, because they're watching too. And I'm assuming it's happening in the same room, because that's where all my favorite people live. It's just one room, one rental storage space in California, because that's where they all live, is in California.
But yeah, dude, that final boss battle is pain in the ass. You have to make Paula, or whatever you name her, keep praying to like fight Guy, I guess. But sometimes he does these attacks that just literally just like one shots her.
Yeah.
She has like 200 HP and then poof, 0.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere. And then you're fucked because you don't have any reviving items left. So what do? You're boned.
Yeah.
So fuck you. I'm going to rewind it until it's possible to beat this game.
Yeah.
And there goes the battery. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, so David recommends Earthbound. I recommend watching our videos on our channels. I'm very excited because next week I also have a video that's coming out that will be related to a podcast thing, and that will be to be announced, TBA. Stick it, keep it here on whatever they say on IGN. With the Too Bad We Didn't Get Into Cars podcast, I've been Nick Scarpinato.
I have been David Kabusha Cars.
This has been our lovely co-host, Vanessa.
And that was our 2011 green Mini Cooper, whatever the hell minivan, country van.
Yeah. Follow us on social medias. Check us out on YouTube. We are going to post another bonus episode this week, so be on the lookout for that.
Next time you see me, I will have a cowboy hat.
Yeah, and you will have plenty of stories to tell from Texas.
Yes, indeed.
So enjoy, pal. Everyone else, enjoy whatever weather you are stuck with. Wash your hands, stay safe, give lots of COVID-safe hugs, and I am going to reset all of my alarms because I have to wake up tomorrow, and this is all a dream. And if I stay stuck in this dream forever, I'm going to get fired, and then I won't be able to buy $1,300
You're fired!
Okay, bye.